All right, let's jump right into this one. We're talking about a story that's, well, it's foundational. It's a story of family, of faith, of survival, and it's been echoing through history for thousands of years. And it all kicks off with a number that just sounds impossible, right? Abraham, the patriarch of this whole story, is 100 years old. And get this, his wife, Sarah, she's 90. I mean, long, long past the age when anyone would ever expect her to have a child. But then, against all odds, it happens. Their son, Isaac, the one they were promised, is born. You can just imagine the relief, right? The wait is finally over, and for Sarah, the joy is just absolute. But you know how these stories go. This incredible, miraculous moment of joy, well, it almost immediately tears the family apart. It creates this deep, painful division right there in their own household. So, the scene is a feast, a huge celebration for Isaac. And it's here, in this one single moment, that everything just boils over. This becomes the breaking point after years and years of simmering tension. Yeah, you gotta understand, this conflict didn't just come out of nowhere. It had been building for years, fueled by jealousy and fear. See, Ishmael, Hagar's son, was almost 15 years older than Isaac. And in that culture, that made him the clear, established firstborn. So for Sarah, this wasn't just some petty sibling rivalry. No, she saw Ishmael as a direct threat to Isaac's entire future, his inheritance, his destiny as the heir. And so she lays down the law. It's an ultimatum, really. She demands that Hagar and her son be sent away, just cast out. And this puts Abraham in an absolutely impossible position. He's caught between his wife's demand and his genuine love for his firstborn son, Ishmael. It's just gut-wrenching for him. So what's a guy to do, right? How could he possibly resolve this? Well, the answer doesn't come from Abraham. It comes from somewhere else entirely. God basically tells him, listen to Sarah. He confirms that, yes, Isaac is the chosen heir. But, and this is a huge but, he also makes a promise for Ishmael. He says Ishmael too will be the father of a great nation. And hearing that, well, that gives Abraham the assurance, the confidence he needs to make this incredibly difficult decision. Okay, so the decision is made. And now we see the heartbreaking consequences. A mother and her teenage son sent out into the wilderness with nothing but some bread and a single container of water. It doesn't take long for things to go wrong, really wrong. They're just wandering in the desert. They get lost, and that little bit of water they had, it's gone. With every step, they're getting closer and closer to total disaster. And just when it seems like all hope is lost, I mean, this is the absolute lowest point, the story takes a sharp, dramatic turn. Hagar just can't bear it. She can't watch her own son die. So she lays him down under a shrub, and she walks away about the distance of a bow shot and just collapses, weeping in total despair. And this is where it gets really interesting. A voice from heaven calls out. But pay attention to this detail. The angel says, God heard the voice of the lad, not Hagar's loud cries, but the silent, desperate suffering of the boy himself. And then, a miracle. But it's not what you might think. A well doesn't just poof into existence. Instead, the text says God opened her eyes and she saw a well. The salvation was there all along. She just couldn't see it until that moment of divine grace. So, you see, this is about so much more than just finding water. This is about the fulfillment of that promise God made to Abraham. This moment in the desert isn't an end. It's the beginning of Ishmael's own destiny. He survives, he grows up, becomes an archer, and the promise that he'd become a great nation is officially set in motion. Okay, so Ishmael's story is on its path. His future is secure. But don't close the book on that location just yet. Because years later, the story brings us right back to that same patch of desert, and this time it's about Abraham and Isaac. So time goes by, and who shows up in that same region? Abraham. And what's he doing? He's making a treaty, a covenant with a local king named Abimelech, right there in the same area where his other son was saved from death. The whole thing is about a dispute over a well, one that Abraham's people had dug. So they make a formal pact, they swear an oath of peace, Abraham gives the king some gifts as a witness to the deal, and that secures his rights to the well. peace is established.
And this is it's a perfect parallel, isn't it? The very same place where God provided a well of survival for Hagar and Ishmael now becomes the location of a well of the oath for Abraham and Isaac. One well saves a life, the other secures a legacy. It all comes together.
And it just leaves you with this final thought. A story of two sons, two mothers, two completely different destinies, all forever linked by this single spot in the desert, this well that meant both survival and promise. It really makes you wonder, can a single place of despair for one person become a place of promise for another?